Hello, my name is Jitters and welcome back to another episode of Why You Should Play, a series of mine where I talk about the various roles in Valorant. In this series, I always start off by talking about what the role is before explaining the main job of that role, and then finally ending the video off by talking about the important skills you can learn by playing agents in that role. For this episode, I'm going to be talking about initiators. So again, to start off the video, I'm going to first be talking about what an initiator is. There are currently 4 initiators in the game: Skye, Sova, Breach, and KO. Initiators generally have some of the most teamwork-based abilities in the game. This ranges from info gathering abilities to flashes and even some of the most powerful CC in the game. The abilities of the agents in this class are some of the most diverse out of any class. There are agents like Breach with flashes, concussion, and knockups. There are agents like Sova whose entire kit is basically all about info gathering with his recon dart and a drone. And then there are even other cool abilities like KO's Molly and Skye's heal. In the last video, I talked about how controllers are the heart of a team. Well, initiators are kind of like the brain. With that one, a lot of the time, it feels like the team is made up of a bunch of thoughtless zombies, where no one knows how to scale up together and push onto a site, no one knows when to rotate or take space, and players just seem to run onto site through 2 mollies, a slow, and a smoke. But as soon as you add an agent like Skye or Sova to a team, it almost feels like players just start to play so much better. This is usually because when you have an initiator on your team, the extra information they provide just helps everyone make better decisions. Now that I've kind of explained who the initiators are and how they differ from the other roles, I think it's time I start to talk about what the main job of an initiator is. When playing an initiator, there are kind of a few main jobs since again there's such a diverse cast of agents, but I'm going to be talking about 2 of the biggest ones. The first job I'm going to be talking about is gathering information. Pretty much all the agents in this role have amazing info gathering tools in their kits. As I mentioned before, Sova has his recon dart and drone, but there's also Skye with her flashes and dog, and KO with his knife. Info gathering is a very important job. Getting the right piece of information at the right time can be game changing. I once heard someone say something about information in a game that completely changed my perspective about just how important it can be. Imagine if you could play a game of Valorant where you could always see where enemies were playing on the map. Think about just how powerful that is. You would always know which sites were the easiest to push onto. You would know which site to stack on defense. You would always know which corners you need to clear. And although you can never have that level of information in a game like Valorant, the principles are still the same. A Sova drone can clear a site and check every corner to help prevent your team from dying to a player trying to cheese. A dart that scans 3 enemies on a site could tell you that it's a good idea to rotate. And scanning an enemy through a wall or smoke could get you a free kill. Having extra information could be the factor in a round to help you or a teammate get a pick and winning a round off it. Not only is it an initiator's job to gather info, but it's also to help make site executes as easy as possible. Initiators are the glue of a team when it comes to site executions. Your abilities can and will help your duelists win that first fight when they make contact with an enemy. Whether that's again something like a Sova recon dart scanning a site to clear corners for your team, or something like a flash or other types of CC to make it easier for your teammate to confirm a kill. As an initiator, you're going to be the agent that holds a push together to help your team get on a site and get the bomb down. I'll give you a few examples of how initiators do this. If you're playing on Haven, usually A short is a dangerous area to push through. A lot of players like to play cheese angles there, and it's usually very rare to get through it without losing a player. But if you have a Skye or Sova on your team, you can just drone or dog through it and clear it for your team to push through safely. This sets your team up for plays like being able to killjoy ult from A short and take A site pretty easily. Another example would be on a map like Ascent, where generally there are a lot of angles you need to clear on A site. Yes, again in this situation you can use something like a drone or dog to clear those angles, but you could also use an agent like Breach, whose ultimate can stun and knock up anyone on the entire site, setting up your team for free kills when they push onto the site. Finally, let's say you're in a situation where a sentinel like Killjoy or Cypher is locking down a site really well with their util. Well, an agent like KO can turn off their util using his knife or ultimate to make pushing onto the site so much easier, since you don't have to worry about something like Cypher's trips or Killjoy's molly slowing down your team. In all these situations, pushing onto a site becomes almost trivial when compared to the same situations without one. Now that I've finished talking about the main roles of an initiator, it's time I start talking about what the main skills you can work on while playing the role. The first skill I wanted to talk about is timing your abilities properly. Just like many of the other skills I've talked about in this series, this is a skill that you can work on and would benefit pretty much any role. But the thing about initiators is that timing their abilities right can allow them to have way more impact, and it's super noticeable when you play this role, especially when playing an agent like Sova, probably the best example in the game for this skill. Think about something like his recon dart. When poorly timed, you could ping no enemies or it could get shot right away and get no value. Alternatively, a well-timed arrow can potentially scan an entire enemy team, and if you catch the enemy in a bad spot where it's hard for them to shoot the dart immediately before it pings them, it could potentially get you a bunch of free kills through smokes or through a wall. This is also true for an agent like KO and his knife. A poorly timed knife won't hit any enemies, but a well-timed one can get a lot of value by pinging multiple enemies and giving your team a bunch of free info, as well as by really slowing down a push or stopping it altogether. For example, if an enemy Omen puts up a smoke, and then you time your knife to go off before he gets the second smoke down, you force the enemy team to either back off or push a site with only one smoke down. You can also use the knife to cancel other util like a Sova drone or a Skydog. But again, if you use this piece of utility too early, you won't be able to do that. Playing these agents really rewards you for listening to sound cues and improving your game sense in a way that other roles don't. The next skill that you can improve at by playing initiators is being a better in-game leader, or IGL. An IGL is very important to a team. They're the main shot caller and decision maker, usually calling the strategy for the round, which site to hit, which ult you're going to use, and when to rotate. And having a good IGL can really help bring your team together and win games you otherwise would have lost. Again, this is a skill that you can practice by playing any role, but initiators have something in their favor that make them better than the rest of the roles. Their util is the best team-based util in the game. As I mentioned before, they have some of the best utility in the game, but it's generally balanced by the fact that they require teamwork to get them more willing to listen to someone else when they come up with a plan that's going to help them make a play and look good. Here are some examples. A Skye can tell their team that they plan to dog onto a site, and this is a dream for a lot of duelists because it gives them something to bait and makes them more likely to push onto a site. Compare that to something like an Omen, where if he tells his team to push onto a site and then he puts down a couple of smokes, a lot of the time in lower elos, your team will just stand in the choke and just bait each other until either you go in or the smokes go down. Where in the first example, your team would bait your dog instead. Another example of how an initiator can be a good pick for when you want to IGL is through an agent like Breach. His flashes and stuns are a very powerful tool for getting onto a site, and a lot of the time Jett players don't really like to dash onto a site. But if you're playing Breach and you tell your Jett that you plan to flash a box for them and that they should dash in off it, they probably will because of the potential for a free kill on a blind enemy. So the fact that your util is so good at setting up your teammates for kills makes it really easy to justify being the IGL in a game. Most solo queue players don't really like listening to their teammates, but with initiators, you're able to make a plan around your teammates where you can set them up and make them more likely to actually listen to your calls. Or at least that's what I've noticed, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, that's all I had to say for this video. If you agree or disagree with anything I've said in this video, please leave a comment letting me know. Also, if you're interested, consider following my Twitter and my Twitch. I stream every Saturday from 2 to 6 p.m. EST. I'll leave a link to both in the description. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more Valorant related content.